What is up, ladies and gentlemen? I am Neto here with Jaeger here for Power Word Mill. Today we are looking at Tinkertown. Tinkertown is top down, not really tile based, but sort of tile based pixel art RPG. Seems to be procedurally generated and all that. What do you think, man?
I think it has a lot of promise, but it definitely needs a lot more work to continue down the path that it's going.
So we had actually tried this. What is it? 5, 6 months ago now, a very long time ago, right when it just went on Steam. Because I love these kinds of games. I wanted to check it out. Um, they fixed a lot of the issues. I know you had an issue at the time with the UI just kind of being dragged into nowhere and then just staying on the screen indefinitely. Is that right?
Yeah, that was definitely a fun surprise having hotbar slots that were broken and were also covering portions of my screen.
And that's a pretty common issue, at least when you're getting started with UI. But um, let's talk about the big issues we experienced. First the bug, because there was one bug that we both experienced, and it was obnoxious, and that was ghost enemies. And I'm gonna put this up to multiplayer.
Yeah, I think it's just a desync issue, but several times during the recording while we were playing, I was getting hit by enemies that I could not see but were showing up on Nudo's screen. And that
For me, they
also,
were just standing there, and then there were enemies that wouldn't take damage and move. They would just be statues.
yeah. And the one time I died during the recording was because a boss spawned in but was completely invisible to me and dealt damage that I couldn't dodge.
Yes, I remember that well. Um, as far as what the game is, and you enjoyed it, what'd you think?
I mean, I think it's very typical of its genre. You know, it's just a basic, I guess you could call it survival sandbox type deal. You know, you gather resources, you build a house, you craft new weapons and armor, and you go explore. I mean, not hugely different from anything else in the genre, but if you like that sort of thing, it's pretty fun.
So the game that I compare it to in my mind, and that it's not a fair comparison because this game has been out for a very long time, is Terraria. It's kind of got that same ish art style, even though it's top down and not 2D. Terraria is not really 2D if you call it the background layer, but it's effectively 2D. Um, there, there's a lot of room for just quirky items, NPCs, that kind of thing, just to make the game more interesting. I know that after the boss, this is a very minor spoiler. I got a boomerang, and that was the first real power spike in the game that I noticed. But I didn't really see anything interesting. Like an iron sword is cool, but every game has an iron sword. Um, as far as music, what'd you think?
I mean, I don't know if the music is good or bad because I completely did not notice it. And I mean, to be fair, that can be a strong suit for some games, just having atmospheric music that sits in the back. But it didn't really capture my attention, which usually, in my opinion, means that it's not the best soundtrack I've ever heard.
It's fitting. It's just not very good.
Yeah.
Um, so, as far as improving the game from a design standpoint, um, I think that they need. I mean, I was gonna say a clear path of progression, but progression is somewhat clear, at least in the terms of find material, get item, upgrade items, and then go back out, get new material. Um, which I guess in some games like Terraria and Minecraft, you kind of know the progression system, um, some way of showing the player, hey, this is what you have to do next, would be very good.
I would agree with
And
that.
then because you need a goal for your player. Sandboxes are great, but I know the biggest problem I have with sandboxes is motivation after a certain point. It's like I've done all I want to do. What is my incentive to keep playing?
Yeah, I have the same issue with a lot of sandbox games and RPGs that are a little too open.
Yes.
It becomes hard to find the motivation to go out and do things just the sake of doing them rather than because it's something you're interested in figuring out.
Yes. Any other suggestions for gameplay or design?
I think this game is starting on a good track, but it needs to come up with something that makes it unique, that lets it stand out from other games in this genre. Because right now, it's kind of just a generic fantasy sandbox. Um, I haven't even seen any of the magic system that this game seems to suggest that it has. So I would like to see them try something new, like whether it's like trying to be quirky and funny like Terraria is, or just adding in a bunch of mechanics that you can build off of like Minecraft. Like it needs something that keeps you wanting to play past the first couple of hours.
Right. And I know one thing we discussed was we went over just the quirky items and the gameplay. Um, One thing we discussed was developer prioritization of features, and a lot of indie game devs suffer from this. Um, in in our own projects, we have this as well, and I understand it. Where when you're developing, you see a feature, you're like, I want that feature. Great, that's fine. It's your own game. Feature creep should be avoided, but at the same time, it's your game. Do what you want. Um, but you develop a feature because you want to develop it, not because it's good for the game. So you'll get games where it's like, hey, there's only ever a wooden sword, and the game is supposed to be a combat RPG, but gosh darn it, if you can't farm these bell peppers. Um, I really would like to see the developers flesh out the things that the players really want to see, not just the developers want to code.
Yeah, I think there needs to be a larger focus on working from the ground up on features so that you're not halfway through the game unable to progress because half the things that you need are work in progresses or are bugged because the developer got sidetracked and started working on something else.
Yeah. Okay. Um, in my mind, I know it's not a fair comparison. I compare this to Terraria, and that mostly is just because of the art style and just the procedural nature of the game. Um, I think we picked this one up for. Let me double check the price.
It's currently $17 on Steam.
Um, I don't think it's worth it at that price point. At least not right now. It's got mostly positive reviews. Um,
I
I
could
just
see arguing for $10 for the state that it's currently in, but 17 seems like too high of an asking price currently.
Now that being said, their roadmap is less than a third of the way done. So if you want to pick it up now, hang on to it, check it out. Um, Great, go for it. I can't recommend it at this price point.
Although
All right.
there is um, to be said, the developers are very clearly still active on working on it from the time that we first purchased it to now when we have now replayed it. There have been a lot of changes that they have made.
This is by no means a dead game. That's correct. But I think that's it for us. Any final thoughts?
If you like this, pick it up, but don't get your hopes up. It, as of right now, is just another staple in its genre.
All right, man. Cue the B roll.
Let's do it.
Peace.
Bye.